my grandfather was actually deposed. He was a judge before the war, and then was actually dismissed and fought for the resistance, was running around the country and actually became a forger.
Because people just become machines within that system, don't they? Somebody sat there with a wrench and all they do is just the same thing day in, day out. It just amazes me the way that we're born individuals and get pushed into being so sane.
I've now left all of those businesses behind, no interest in that at all, and I've now found a new partner in America who is running the businesses the way they should be run.
The Manna Journey is the catalyst for change in our world. It's a consistent source of truth for the next generation and current leaders. Our mission is to change the world by reframing our current governance, by using ancient wisdom to solve modern problems, and by shaping innovative new businesses to have a culture of pursuit of purpose.
I'm Jewish and I'm also British. So I was born here in 1964. Let me start with my parents. My dad came from Germany in 1933. They were on holiday in Belgium in Ostend, and the factory that my grandfather had was literally taken by a young Nazi who walked in and took it. So my father stayed in Ostend for 6 months and then came here. And this country was good to him. He was accepted here, and he built a business here. His father did, I should say. So that's my father's side from Germany, but business people. My mother came here later. She also was an immigrant. She came here when she got married to my dad in 1963. My grandfather, my mother's side, was a Supreme Court judge. So he became a top judge in the Cour de Cassation in France, and my identity almost comes from both sides. I've got business acumen, but I've also got a general understanding of the law.
It's a nice background to come from, isn't it?
It is.
How come your mum only came to Britain much later? Wasn't that family affected by the Holocaust as well?
Yeah, my mother ran away. My grandfather was actually deposed. He was a judge before the war, and then was actually dismissed and fought for the resistance, was running around the country and actually became a forger. Forged documents. So they both had difficult times. And then my father was from an observant Jewish family. My mother was from a more traditional family, but she wanted to become more observant, and she was introduced to my dad, and she came over and they got married here. And my life has been spent in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. So university background, I went to the University of London, which of course is the best university in the world. So you're just going to have to tell me which inferior institution you attended.
Yeah, so I went to a Jewish primary school, Jewish secondary school, and then went on to Cambridge after spending 2 years in Gateshead, in Talmudical College, which is where we study the Talmud. And then I went to Cambridge to study engineering, with a view to joining the factory, which is a manufacturing business that we had in Watford. So my natural love is actually for real manufacturing, and the idea was I learned how to engineering and then use that practically in Chiswell Wire Company to actually help to change the business.
The problem is though, if you go into engineering at your age, it's all being outsourced, isn't it? The engineering can't have all, the manufacturing can't have lasted a particularly long time.
Let me tell you, it's interesting. So I joined Chiswell, graduated in '88, and joined Chiswell straight away. And fortunately, I saw from the beginning I had the ability to rethink everything throughout the factory. So we changed every aspect of the factory, from the production to the storage areas. Everything was changed. I had a father who gave me the scope and the space to actually test my ideas.
You must have been pretty brave if you're 21, 22. You come into his business, right, he's established it for a certain amount of time. You come in and change everything.
Absolutely. I think that's where I got my ability to turn the sixpence. He was also, even though he didn't have the same natural understanding of business, he was flexible and listened to me. And which 21-year-old has opportunity to completely transform every aspect of a business, but he gave me that, and we changed everything. We significantly enhanced the profit because we halved the labour force. But that said, manufacturing, even then we could see there was no future, because the move away from doing things in this country, manufacturing had already started. It was all about finance. And when I graduated, a lot of my colleagues went into merchant banks, which I didn't even know what merchant bank was about at that stage.
Most people in merchant banks don't know what merchant banks
that's probably true as well, actually. But I was able to see very soon that I had the ability to transform businesses, but there was no future. So we sold it, and I trained as an accountant with KPMG, did an MBA, and then had various experiences in a number of different companies where I was always able to make lots of money for the people that I worked for, but ended up getting sacked because I wasn't very good at politics. I didn't protect my backside very well because I just looked after the interests of the company. Eventually I got some tremendous advice from a guy called Trevor Grice at the Waste Group, and he said, Phillip, of all the people that I've recruited, you're the one that will succeed, but you need to be your own boss because you're just not suited to working for other people. So that was good advice. So eventually I ended up at Secure Player, which I joined in 1996. At the time, it employed about 1,000 security guards. And then from 96 to 2020, I was fortunately able to grow it to turnover north of $1 billion, employing over 100,000 people a year in security, facility services, cleaning, as well as in recruitment services.
It's a bit sad though, isn't it, going from, and I don't want to be disrespectful to you, but going from manufacturing to the biggest outsourcing of them all, which is cheap labour. I mean, it's not. How proud were you of it? You couldn't be.
Well, you're absolutely right. You have to take the opportunities that they present, and that was the way the UK was going. And it was all about outsourcing. It was all about people. And as you say, I would have loved to spend my life. In fact, now I'm back full circle into manufacturing again, into real goods and services. My father actually wanted that. He didn't want to go into law or into property, which is where a lot of us end up, because he wants to do something real. The trouble is, services end up being outsourced, and it all becomes a race to the bottom.
Yes.
And you end up not looking after particularly well people or the planet.
Because people just become machines within that system, don't they? Somebody sat there with a wrench, and all they do is just the same thing day in, day out. It just amazes me the way that we're born individuals and get pushed into being so samey, which goes wrong all that.
Yeah, because you're right, because we start to look, as an engineer, you're very into efficient machinery and how to design machine to avoid labour. But the trouble is, we actually start to treat labour in the same way. We start to think that labour has to be subject to division of labour in the same way as machines are, and you end up dehumanizing the workforce, where you've got a worker running around a warehouse doing 18 miles of walking and then robotically picking things, and if you're not careful, you dehumanize it and you treat them like commodities. It becomes a horrible job.
It's got to be difficult, because you made a colossal amount of money out of doing that, and so whilst it might be exploitative and not what you want to do, it's been in a sense your life work.
Absolutely, but I always wanted to make a difference. Money doesn't do it for me, never has done it for me. And I live in a comfortable house, but I spend very little on myself, because that's not what I desire to do. But that said, I see myself as a trustee. I see myself as anything that I've got. I'm the controller and the owner, but I'm not using it for myself. So money can change the world, and that's the realization that I had. So even though I'm not driven by making money for myself, but I recognise that money is critical if used in the right way to look after people and planet.
So it's amazing, given the background of your family, that you've built a completely stable family. You're all sort of happily getting on with things. It's amazing the way the world can change from something like the Holocaust through to today.
Absolutely. So just to continue the story, so I realised that I wanted to run business in a different way, because I realised it was a race to the bottom. We weren't looking after our people. So I tried to convert Cordon into a social enterprise, which is a business focused on people and planet. An invaluable experience, because I couldn't do it. Even though it was our company, I couldn't do it. Not because it's my fault, because with the hundreds of thousands of relationships, we're all transactional. So our clients, the big retailers, the big distributors, were not interested in looking after their people or looking after the planet in the way I was. It didn't matter what I did. I was just one part of an ecosystem that wasn't focused on looking after either people or nature. So, but I think the experiment was phenomenal, because I worked out what one has to do in order to run a business that way, even though I couldn't. And back to where I am now, I've now left all of those businesses behind, no interest in that at all. And I've now found a new partner in America, Gary Klopfenstein, who is running the businesses the way they should be run. And that's exciting. These are manufacturing businesses that can actually change the world. And now, for the first time in my life, I actually have an opportunity to actually realise the dream.
Could you realise the dream when you were 21, when you left university, or did it require all that experience to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think it'd be that experience. I think you have to experience what doesn't work in order to get it right. So the answer is no. I don't believe I could have done it, because I had to realise that money did make me happy, and that I wasn't happy with the way these people were being treated. And so it's allowed me to. It's a journey. It's a journey that one has to go on, and you can't jump through the experience. You have to have the experiences.
Mind you, also there's been a lot of more modern thought, hasn't there, during your career, about how you can move away from this kind of Henry Ford Model T, everything the same, into being a more individualised world.
Absolutely right, and that's what I've focused my attentions on. So I realised I tried to do it at Corden, it didn't work. Then, once I moved away from Corden, I then was blessed the last 3 or 4 years with the time and the resources to actually devote to applying the same skills that I'd developed in business, which is getting world-class people and working with them to develop world-class ideas from the world of recruitment and facility services into the biblical study. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working with top biblical scholars. But what's different is because I've got the lens of business.
Yeah.
They tend to be. They had the technical skills without the ability to look through the lens.
Apply.
So what I've got is multi-domain expertise. I've now developed the same scriptural skills that I need, but because I've got the lens of business as well, the combination enables me to see through the text through a different lens that others haven't been able to do in the past.
I mean, one of the things that's interesting about you, because obviously you've studied the Bible at college, you've gone to the second best university.
I would argue with that.
I'll accept that Cambridge is better than London. But you've done that. You've had a successful manufacturing business. You've built a successful facilities management outsourcing business. If you were to die tomorrow and they were to put something on your headstone, what would it be?
I'm not there yet. I think that's what's to come. In the end, we're at the point where I think the next part of my life is what I hope to will create legacy. The dream is to start to work with others to change the narrative. We're in a world where it is focused on the iPhone. It's a complicated world which no one understands. I get more and more frustrated when I listen to the news, and I stop listening because I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yes.
These complex things. Profit. I'm an accountant, by the way, but profit isn't easy to measure, and it is actually easily affected and changed. It's not a fixed number, so it's confusing.
Philip, people get frustrated because whatever they do in life, whatever way they vote, whatever way they organise their financial affairs, nothing seems to change, and it seems like the system's built against them.
Well, it's worse than that. They feel disengaged because they don't understand what the politicians are talking about. They don't understand the statistics. They don't understand how they can impact their own lives, and they turn off. And there is a way of making things simple to enable people to understand it, to re-engage them in their own lives.
But what you're saying to me, Philip, is very, very clear, that you have the intelligence and the family background and the educational experience to understand the system, and therefore it makes you phenomenally successful in business. But what it also does is means there are have-nots in the world.
Correct. But what I want to start to do with others is to explain things so simply that everyone understands them.
Yeah.
And it's that's not the world we live in, where it's all about the people with knowledge who use that knowledge to make money, to be powerful, and effectively to enslave other people, because people become dependent on those with knowledge. And that's what happened in the companies that I work for. Loads and loads of employees, but not really choices being made. They ended up being almost robots. I think that's a lot of the way people, not just in the UK and America, that's what we've become. We've become a very divided society where people are not making choices. And the younger people now, as we know, can't buy houses, can't get meaningful jobs. And that is not sustainable. And there is another way. And that's what we have to explore.
Yeah, well, I mean, people are 2 paychecks away from oblivion, many of them.
Absolutely right. We've talked about this in the past in terms of not being able to buy a house. How does that work? So young people simply can't get onto the ladder. And those people on the ladder have got huge mortgages, which means they're massively indebted. They're stuck in a job because they've got to pay the mortgage, which means they can't find a job that they like. So they are slaves of that. They haven't got independence. So what we have to start thinking about is a conversation which simplifies matters and starts to change the narrative away from an enslaved, dependent narrative to a narrative where people have choices and can live a meaningful life.